thoughts. Chus, you've got Steelers versus Falcons up next. Justin Fields started for the Steelers, and he's going to start again this week. What did you think about his start this past week? And then are you scared about him starting this upcoming week or excited?
So the Steelers, I actually, when it comes to playing this week, I'm not really that nervous because we're playing the Broncos, but we'll get into that in a little bit here. But I kind of want to talk about the Steelers as a whole against the Falcons. When it came to Justin Fields, I don't live tweet typically. I'm not as big of a live tweeter as Mike Seitz. Shout out Mike Seitz, or even Josh for that matter. But here and there, I do like to live tweet because they both have kind of rubbed off on me. So, but one of the things that I did say at the beginning, which initially I deleted the first tweet because initially I was going to start crapping on the offense because the first couple of plays did not look too hot. It was like a dropped snap. Fields, I'm pretty sure had a missed throw. It was just not looking too hot, but we came around and everything looked pretty decent. But one of the things that I said was that it was kind of a nice breath of fresh air that we actually have a relatively competent team that actually can move the ball and isn't going 3 and out every single drive or doing jet sweeps. And now, granted, we did have some weird plays that we did run, which I was not really sure why we would run them, such as a kind of like revert. It wasn't really like a jet sweep, but it was like, I don't even know what you would call it. But George Pickens got tackled like 5 yards backwards. It was stupid. But overall, in the first half, Justin Fields looked great. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was 10 for 12. He had like a 96 quarterback rating. He looked really good. He looked pretty solid. And honestly, when it came to Justin Fields as a whole, I wish that we would have seen a touchdown. I think the offense needs to clean up some things. But I think one of the things that I like about this offense in comparison to last year's offense is even though we are running the ball and doing stupid stuff, like Josh, for example, you said, why would they run it on 3rd and goal with Cordell Patterson on, why would you do that? Well, in difference from last year to this year, the defense was constantly on the field. At this point, you can have Cordell Patterson run up the middle and get no gain, and it won't matter because that clock's still ticking and gives the defense even more time to rest, which was not something that the defense had the opportunity to do last year because every time it was always 3 and out. They would do these weird passes, they would do these runs and all these dumb plays that would never work and always would end up in stoppages of plays. So therefore, in this game, you would have a lot of runs. And I noticed there was a lot of runs with surprisingly no Jalen Warren though. Not a lot of Warren. It was a lot of Cordell Patterson and Najee Harris, which if you're a fantasy football owner, I would say Warren's stock is kind of going down a little bit. Patterson's might be going a little bit up because with Arthur Smith's offense, they might be using more of a Smith Najee. And I personally think that Jalen Warren should be used more as a receiving running back because there was a play that Najee dropped in which I feel like if you had it thrown to Warren, I feel like he would have caught it. Not that Najee's not a good person to catch the ball, but I trust more in Warren in those situations. George Pickens on the offense looked really, really good. Now, I will say the referees were kind of selling. I'm not going to lie. Maybe that's just my bias towards the Steelers, but like, my goodness, there was a lot of me and Connor talked about it yesterday. Shout out Connor. He's been on the show. He's a friend of the show. We talked about it yesterday on Discord while we didn't watch Monday Night Football. We actually watched Monday Night Raw. Shout out WWE season premiere. But we were talking about it and we kind of felt that some of the things were questionable. Like there was a great throw, beautiful throw. I cannot express to you the excitement that I had when Justin Fields would throw the ball sometimes because he actually sometimes has a cannon and he tossed that ball up to George Pickens, beautiful fadeaway. And George Pickens got an offensive pass interference for barely pushing off on whoever the cornerback was that was guarding him. And I was so livid because there has been so many worse offensive pass interferences that not necessarily on the Steelers, but just in general that I've seen that were not called. And I was really mad that it happened because George Pickens didn't even like really fully extend. He just kind of like tapped him almost and then caught the ball. And everyone was like it was ridiculous. And then there was offsetting penalties for something that one of the linemen did. Like there was a lot of dirty stuff that was happening. I didn't agree with what Jesse Bates did. I thought that what he did was a little ridiculous. And I also felt that there was a weird, I can kind of understand with the penalty with the punter and stuff like that. But Steeler fans were all, we were up in arms. I was too. Dude, one of the players for the Falcons, ran into the kicking leg of the punter while he was being blocked, kind of like pushed and like knocked this guy over, ended his season. And we got a holding penalty and we had to re-kick the ball with Chris Boswell. They were literally trying to sell. So screw you, referees, and no offense to Atlanta, but screw you guys too for having the favoritism in the league because everyone thought the Falcons were going to win. Well, for you, when it comes to the defense, you couldn't stop it. And when it comes to the Falcons, I'm not too worried about the offense when it comes to the Falcons. And look, I actually genuinely respect Atlanta. I'm just messing with you guys.
Should Michael Penix Jr. get the start next week in Monday Night Football?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. The thing is one of the things with this is that the Steelers defense, I know a lot of people talk very highly of, but I think it's miles better than what it was last year. And I think with the way that the offense is running, with the time ticking and more usage of running the ball and not as many passing plays, and not that there wasn't a lot of passing plays, there was. And like I said, Justin Fields would scramble a lot, which also helps because you're still running clock. I think that Kirk Cousins just was struggling with the pressure. I think you have Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt running at you, and the pressure is even with Cam Hayward on that defensive line. I mean, that is a lot of pressure. And not only that, but you've got guys like Deshaun Elliott and Dante Jackson that are in that backfield, also with Minka, that are great for just defensive coverage, which got Deshaun Elliott, a new safety we just picked up, who got an interception, and Dante Jackson, who we got from the Deontay Johnson trade from Carolina, who also had the go ahead interception after TJ Watt had, like, pretty sure, I don't remember exactly because there was a lot of weird things. Atlanta called a lot of penalties on like right when TJ Watt would do something. Like I remember TJ Watt got a strip sack and it fumbled and they recovered it and they called illegal hands to the face or something like that on one of our players. And I was really mad. So it was just a lot of like things that I was just very, very frustrated with when it came to that. But shout out Scotty Miller for coming up clutch at the end, for being a placeholder after our punter got hurt as well. At the end of the day, I mean, we've seen a lot of placeholders mess up even 20-yard field goals after injuries like that. So it's really good that he came up clutch. Chris Boswell obviously had many field goals and also punted the ball very, very good and set up for a really good safety play. But when it comes to Kirk Cousins, going back to that, I personally wouldn't. I think it's his first time playing in a new stadium, not the first time he's ever playing in a new stadium. First time he's ever played for the Atlanta Falcons when it comes to this. So it's first time in this new stadium, a new scheme and whatnot with Atlanta. And obviously you couldn't have picked a worse matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers with the defensive rush game. And also on top of that, it's always a home game. So you're still getting that stadium was filled with Steelers fans. So I'm sure that still bugged him. It's a little different than being in Kansas City and having that. And, because when you're in Kansas City, there's a lot of Chiefs fans and stuff like that. I feel like the Chiefs fans growing, but I mean, I feel like in a couple of weeks, maybe even next week, or in a couple of weeks when Atlanta's actually home and has like an actual straight up home game and they're not playing the Steelers, it might be better for them. But I wouldn't give up on Kirk yet. I think it was just the Steelers defense just looked really good.
One thing I want to ask you about Justin Fields before we move on. I noticed on his passing chart that Justin Fields didn't really pass in the middle of the field. Most of his passes were outside the numbers. Do you have concerns about Justin Fields not utilizing the middle of the field? Would you like him to do that more often? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, if throwing to the sidelines and throwing to the corners and whatnot are working, don't fix what ain't broken. I mean, if he's more comfortable throwing on those sides and he's getting the ball into first down territory every single time, I would say screw it. Who cares about throwing in the middle? I mean, obviously it doesn't let some of those wide receivers in the slot and whatnot get those receptions. But I think if he's more comfortable with that, then I would say more power to him. I don't have any concerns with it. I mean, the thing that made me happy was that George Pickens actually got the ball. He actually was very much utilized. I mean, obviously he didn't have a touchdown, but he still was utilized. He would have had a huge gain if it wasn't the offensive pass interference. And I'm really excited to see what it looks like going forward. And I'm a little concerned with Russell Wilson coming in week 3 if Justin Fields picks up a win in Denver. I'm just saying, I mean, because at that point, if Russell Wilson comes in the home opener against the Chargers and poops himself, Steelers fans are going to be calling for Fields to start again. So, and Steelers fans, they get mad. We get mad. I'm not going to lie about that. We've had a lot of quarterback issues over the last 2 years. We're not dealing with it again, especially if Fields is decent enough to win us games. And that's all you need.
All righty. So that was Steelers Falcons. We're going to continue to listen and keep an eye on the Steelers. Chus has got some defensive guys he's got his eye on, of course, possibly getting some videos out on them.
Yeah, hopefully Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott, those are the 2 guys I'm looking at.
So
may even do one on Beanie. We'll see.
Maybe Beanie. So subscribe so you don't miss potential videos on Beanie.